IloveOov versus Flash, and unfortunately for us it's being played on Monty Hall, which is possibly the most boring map ever invented after Neo-Arachnoid. But this is really going to be, this I think is probably going to be the highlight of the evening, along with Reach versus Shark, because both of these guys have been in fine form. IloveOov has been playing really well recently. He has been playing some excellent StarCraft, and he has been performing really well, especially in that first game versus Firebat Hero in the MSL, where he displayed some stunning skills and actually came out on top despite looking like he was losing. Unfortunately, he did get overpowered by Firebat Hero in the next two matches and crashed out. And it's sad to see IloveOov crash out of the MSL despite playing good StarCraft. He hasn't played bad StarCraft. He's just been overpowered a little bit by his opponents playing just that little bit better, just having that slight edge upon him. And IloveOov is missing that little bit of an edge that he normally does have. You can say that he's back. He's definitely back. He's definitely playing good StarCraft, but he's not fully back to the kind of dominance and the kind of form that we saw from him in his prime. And he's still missing that final edge that will take him over the next hurdle. And hopefully he can find that edge today and progress into the next round, and that will give him the motivation and propel him to continue to do well. Flash himself is a great player, and he has demonstrated a lot of skills in the short time that he has been with us, in the short time that we have seen him play, and he has surprised us all with his level of play, with his macro, his micro, his game sense, and his overall play in general, as well as his ability to hold his nerve despite being a 15-year-old kid and playing against big-name players. So I do expect big things from Flash. He too hasn't had a great time recently. That defeat against Boxer was obviously really killing to his ego, and that was probably a confidence-destroying game, because he did play that game fairly well, and despite that he managed to lose to Boxer, who played exceptionally well. I guess the thing with Flash is that he did show his inexperience a little bit in that game, and just for syncing purposes, I'm just looking at IloveOov with the pretty booth girl standing beside him, and I'm sure she's got a few bananas hidden about her person, ready to re-energize as the need may arise. And so, as I was saying, Flash did display in that game versus IloveOov a couple of his weaknesses, and those weaknesses mainly being the fact that he still is a little bit inexperienced, and even though he's got great macro, he's got pretty good micro, he's got a great early game sense, he still doesn't have the experience to have kind of anticipation late game. He allowed Boxer to pick off his dropships far too easily. He allowed Boxer to control the game with his mind almost. He allowed Boxer to control the way he played the game, and that's a bad thing to happen. If you let another player dictate the way the game is played, then you're inevitably going to end up losing. But in terms of actual gameplay, this guy is very solid. He's got Cobra-like reflexes, and he's going to be a tough match for IloveOov to take on today. And I think regardless of who wins, I think even though this is Monty Hall, I think regardless of who wins, or you should just call it Monty Python for the comedy value of the ridiculous of this map. But I think regardless of who wins, we're going to have an exciting game. Turn versus turn on Monty Hall does feature very aggressive play. Turtling doesn't work very well. I do expect both players to fast expand. I think the guy who goes for the cheese strategy, who goes for kind of the dropship fast vulture drop, is going to lose if someone tries to be clever. I think you're going to have to go, this is going to be an all-out macro war, and I think because it's going to be an all-out macro war, maybe it favors IloveOov a little bit, because of the fact that he is very good at macro, and macro has always been his specialty. He has been the pioneer of Terran macro. So it'll be interesting to see which of these two guys come out on top. If I had to pick one, I would definitely go for IloveOov. 1-0. Okay, that was just for syncing purposes. So the game is starting up between IloveOov and Flash, so I'm going to stop talking about the other games later on today. We'll pick that up after this game. And IloveOov is playing teal, Flash is playing blue, so we've got matching colors, unfortunately. IloveOov is the top left-hand corner of the map, and Flash is on the bottom right. Monty Hall, as I said, I don't like this map because it's very slow and boring, but I guess that kind of, matches turn versus turn style of play. The only good thing about Monty Hall is because you've got these three lanes, that means that maneuverability is of absolute importance, and the player with the greater maneuverability, the player with more scouting, is the player who tends to have an advantage. The other thing about Monty Hall that I find is that you can't not scout. I mean, obviously in StarCraft you can't not scout, period, but in Monty Hall it is a little bit difficult to scout. It does take a little bit of extra effort to scout, but I've found that players who scout more always end up with the advantage in the game. And as I said, I don't think cheese is going to work in this matchup. I really don't expect either of these players to try and cheese. I expect players to go one barracks into command center or one factory into command center, and you can see that both players obviously starting off their supply depots to begin with. One of the interesting strategies that I've seen on this map performed by Terran players is to kind of use that supply depot build to get them through the mineral line, blocking them, and to build their barracks a little bit advanced. And I think that is actually not a bad strategy, because that allows you to get a fairly early scout. Building that barracks a fraction late isn't going to hurt you too much, and OOV in the teal is moving down with that SCV, so it looks like he's going to be starting his command center, so it looks like OOV might be going for a 14 command CC build, and I don't think that's a mistake. I mean, I think the trade-off... Okay, so he's not starting off the command center, he's actually going off south to scout. And again, I apologize to anyone for any syncing issues or whatever. Siku did make an excellent post on the live commentary there about how you can sync into my cast. So if I am behind a few people or ahead of a few people, I apologize for that. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do. It's kind of an imperfect world in that respect. And we've got a white boy in the Korean crowd, so that's always nice to see. I hope someday that I could go to Korea and watch a match as well. And you can see that's exactly what OOV is doing, what I talked about. He's actually gone through the mineral line, and he's building his barracks further down. I don't think he's going to be trying a rush of any sort. And Flash has started up his command center, so Flash is going for a fast expand. OOV has yet to start up his command center, and I really think he needs to start up his command center soon. The only good thing for OOV is that he has sent that SCV down to scout from the top lane, so he is going to find Flash's fast expansion, and that is going to give him a chance to know what Flash is doing. OOV seems to be going for fast tech, so we can expect to see fast vultures or possibly a fast tank push from OOV. And I have to say that in my view, this map is very, very easy to defend. And OOV just halting his SCV out there, and OOV is building something. I think OOV is building a factory, and this might turn out to be a stroke of pure luck for OOV. I think OOV is building a factory there. They haven't actually focused on it, but you can see on the minimap that OOV has started a building in the top lane, and if OOV is building a factory there, that is going to spell humongous trouble for Flash, and it is indeed a factory. So I have commented on the fact that I do feel that fast expands are the way to go on this map. I feel that they're very, very easy to defend because of the structure of that map, but OOV has already got his factory almost finished, and he's going to be finishing his factory maybe a couple of seconds after Flash is going to be finishing his barracks.